The world of Middle-earth is intricate, and with this intricacy, it raises a lot of questions on history, aging, and even genetics. Like many fantasy worlds, it's complicated. Can orcs feel love? Can dwarves breed with other races? And what happened to the blue wizards? I'm going to be exploring these questions and others. Hello, I'm Riley, and welcome back to Otherworldly Fiction. Before we begin, subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more content like this. My first question revolves around the dwarves. If you read the Silmarillion, you learn that the dwarves were happy little accidents. Some god got bored and made them. The head god got angry but let the dwarves remain if they slept until the other guys came along first. Unlike the elves and the humans, dwarves weren't part of the plan, but like the accidental third child, they were allowed to remain. This raises a big question for me. In Tolkien's histories, you learn that humans and elves can have kids, the result being the Dunedain, a long-lived race of supermen. But dwarves have longer lifespans too. They're not immortal, but they live longer than men. If dwarves and humans had children, what would happen? Would each kid have to pick a side? Or would each kid just have a mix of human and dwarf traits? This is assuming dwarves can even breed with humans. Maybe as a result of their creation, they were made a genetic dead end to the others. It's not clear. The next question is more or less the same. Can dwarves conceive with elves? We know elf DNA is special. If an elf and a human have a kid, that kid has to choose which race they'll belong to. Would it work the same way for elves and dwarves? Presumably it would, though the super dwarf race would be even more long-lived, since dwarves live a long time regardless. At any rate, the fanfiction plot between Toriel and Killy has left me with questions. My third question is one shared by many fans. What happened to the blue wizards? Who were these extra members of the Astari? There are supposed to be 5 wizards in total, but why 2 who are blue? Why not a blue wizard and a green wizard? And where did they go? In all likelihood, Tolkien meant to develop their stories further, but ran out of time. Even their names aren't conclusive, as they change between notes, and it's unclear where the blue wizards are during the War of the Ring. What was more important than the battle against Sauron? Even Radagast the Brown plays a minor role in this fight. Why does nobody talk about the blue wizards? Why doesn't anyone note their absence? Whatever the case, it seems we'll never have a conclusive answer, unless another writer gains rights and takes up the mantle of telling their story. This brings me to my next question. I asked about the possibility of dwarves being able to conceive with other races, but what about wizards? The wizards belong to a group called the Astari, which in turn belongs under the race of the Maiar. The Maiar are the second in commands to the Valar, who are Middle-earth's gods. The Maiar not only help to shape the world, but they remain to protect it. When exploring the history of Aragorn's families, the reader learns of a union between a Maiar and an elf. If these superpowers can have children with the mortal or semi-mortal races of Middle-earth, what is Gandalf's potential? If he belongs to the same group, can he have a child with an elf or a human? And if he did, what kind of a child would it be? Would the child be able to do magic? Or would they just be long-lived and carry a mysterious heir? Given Gandalf's love of recreation and ability to connect with others on a human level, I wouldn't put it past him. But the question remains if he even could have a child or not, let alone if he would. In yet another genetic mystery, you have the Hobbits. Every other race has an elaborate backstory, while the Hobbits are just there. The protagonist comes from this race, yet so little is known of their origin. Further research indicates hobbits broke off from man somewhere, but have since evolved into something unique. While the other races get a creation story, the hobbits' origins are a little more Darwinian in nature. Even if they were humans once, they aren't recognized as such. Many races don't even know they exist, and those that do refer to them as halflings. The hobbits are very short, but they also have large feet, on which hair grows. They can eat immense amounts, and facial hair is rare for them. Whatever they were before, they've become their own race. Little is known about them, but that was the author's point. It was this habit of overlooking hobbits that won the war. Their origins are shrouded in mystery, but this only enhances the story. Despite their unknown beginnings, readers are given no shortage of information on the race itself. In my next question, I move away from genetics to wonder about the world itself. There's a theory that Middle-earth is, in fact, just Earth. This was our world, thousands upon thousands of years ago. While it's a fun idea, it's not conclusive. In indicating this, Tolkien may just have been saying we once had a world like this. Tolkien was saddened by the birth of industry, which saw his beloved country roads and swaths of forest destroyed to make way for cities, cars, and even weapons of war. He lived through a world war, seeing how it tore up the land. And he lived through a key point in history when people removed themselves from nature. In writing his books on cozy shire pathways and ancient forests, he was remembering what he saw as a better time. The sense of him talking about our past could have stemmed from this, though the idea that Middle-earth was our world remains an intriguing one. My next inquiry revolves around elves. It's not a groundbreaking question, but it's another that's popular with fans. Can elves grow beards? The implication would seem to be that they don't. All of the elves seen in the films are clean-shaven, and they are described as youthful and unable to age in the books. Beards make a person look older. Taking this trait from the elves was likely an aesthetic choice, but one which also differentiated the elves from the humans and the dwarves. However, one elf is described as having a beard, and he's remarkable for the fact that he's lived longer than any other individual. This has led to speculation that elves can grow beards if they attain a great age, though others believe it was just a moment of inconsistency on Tolkien's part. Whatever the truth, it's influenced other writers to give their elves this trait in order to stop them from being mixed up with humans. Elves aren't the only immortal beings to raise questions, of course. Another of Middle-earth's immortal beings is Gollum, who ended up as such because of his prolonged ownership of the ring. There's a basic rule the world establishes. If you own the One Ring, you don't age. It grants you extraordinarily long life, but you're more likely to lose your mind the longer you keep it. The ring is heroin and the elixir of life packed into one. But if you can let the ring go, you might be saved. The catch is one big withdrawal symptom. You start aging again. What's more, it's as if you never stopped. All of your years rapidly catch up with you, as witnessed with Bilbo. In the span of a year, the man ages decades, finally resembling someone who's 111 years old. Gollum is addicted to the ring the longest. Eventually he loses it. Bilbo steals the ring, and Gollum is left without it for several decades. This raises the big question. Why doesn't Gollum start aging again? He has a few centuries to catch up on, and yet he appears exactly the same decades later when he encounters Frodo. Though he's unhealthy, he's spry, not at all aged to the degree Bilbo was. Is Gollum still immortal as a result of having the ring for so long? Is he aging, but at a much slower rate? The answer could lie in one's ownership of the ring. Though Bilbo still misses the ring, he doesn't actively try to get it back. He lets it go, feeling a sense of relief once he has. Afterwards, the ring is officially bequeathed to Frodo. Gandalf says, "It is yours." The ring confers on Frodo this same anti-aging, but Frodo doesn't actually wear it. He keeps it stored in the house. It's enough for Frodo to be the owner of the ring in order for it to affect him. Others who are in equal proximity to the ring continue to age as normal. It is ownership, then, rather than closeness, that lets the ring pass on its effects. To this end, Gollum isn't aging because he still shares this bond with the One Ring. As long as he sees himself as the ring's owner, he will remain bound to it, immortality, madness, and all. As long as he seeks it out, it's his. The other theory could just be that it transformed him too much. Gollum is no longer human. Like the ring race, he's been turned into some other supernatural force, and there's no going back. The next mystery presented by Middle-earth is actually rather sad. When Merry and Pippin are taken in by Treebeard, they are told the story of the Entwives. Male Ents and their female counterparts, the Entwives, would have children together and continue the race. But one day, all of the Entwives disappeared, and it's been many long years since the Ents have heard the pitter-patter of little Ent feet. The mystery is engrossing enough, but the implication is tragic. The line of Ents ends with Treebeard. They can no longer procreate. If Treebeard and his remaining companions die, that's the end of the race. The question remains unanswered. What did happen to the Entwives? Why was it only the females of the race, and how did it happen? The bigger question, are they still alive, or will the Ents, like the elves, eventually disappear from Middle-earth, taking more magic with them? My 10th question comes back to the wizards, as well as the subject of aging. All of the wizards seen within the world resemble old men. They have gray hair, long beards, and their faces are wrinkled. But were they always this way? Or did they appear young ones? What is clear is how they feel. Though Gandalf appears elderly, he's as spry as any 20-year-old. He can fight, ride for long hours, and reading without glasses doesn't strain his eyes. It's apparent however old they may look, the wizard's immortality allows them to remain fit and strong. My last question is one that's troubled many fans. Even Tolkien himself is said to have been bothered by it. The orcs were elves once, but they were corrupted, and eventually they were brought under the influence of Sauron. Despite their inherent evil, orcs have thoughts of their own. They gossip when they think their higher-ups aren't listening, they gripe about their jobs, and they have wants and needs. They like to eat, are capable of hate, and fight for what they want. In short, they are still individuals. They're intelligent, emotional, thinking beings. With that in mind, are all orcs evil? If an orc was raised in a peaceful society, would he still be evil? Or could he be redeemed? As a devout man, Tolkien was subscribed to the belief that anyone could be saved. He seemed to have hope that this philosophy applied to orcs. They are, after all, capable of independent thought. Removed from Sauron's influence, could their corruption be reversed? Could any one orc be capable of love? Many would like to think so. Orcs weren't always evil, and the implication that an entire race of people should be inherently bad, and therefore doomed, doesn't sit well with most. What are some of the questions Middle-earth has raised for you? What theories have you heard or come up with to answer them? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.